Hey guys, it's the 305 Wine Guy and the Dusk Man coming back at you from downtown Miami. Hey buddy, you want to say something? No? Alright, guess not. Today we're going to be focusing on some tips and tricks for you. Some of these tips and tricks are things that I live by now, so um, I think they're absolutely essential. Of course, you don't need any of this stuff, it'll just make your everyday wine life so much easier. So let's start with one of my favorite things for transporting wine, and that would be this wine sleeve. You can actually go and buy these. Some of them are gel filled. This one I actually got for free through a friend, but some of these are gel filled, so you can throw them in the freezer, and then you'll have a gel surrounding them, and it'll keep the wine cooled or chilled. So they're especially useful for champagne or for any white wines you might have. I love these things. I take them everywhere I go. I have multiple of them, and they're just fantastic. Okay, tip number 2 here. How many times have you opened a bottle of wine and not finished it? I mean, countless times, right? There are a few ways that people like to preserve the wine, and one of those ways is just popping the cork in it and throwing it back in the fridge. That can work, but usually it depends on how good the wine is. If it's a really high quality wine, or if it's not. If it is high quality, it'll probably last longer. If it's lower quality, it's going to go bad in 24 hours or less. So there is an amazing tool that I use. This is just literally an air vacuum. I've put this, you just basically stick this into the bottle of wine like that, right? And you put it on the top and you literally suck the air out of the bottle. I've had wines that have lasted 7 to 10 days after opening and throwing them in the fridge and using that thing. So they're amazing. I highly recommend them. You can find them on Amazon. Simply just search wine suction or vacuum sealer or any of those terms, and it'll come up, and just buy it. It's worth the 10 or 15 bucks. Okay guys, tip number 3 here. These are foil wine pourers. What do? They stop the drip. So how many times have you poured a bottle of wine and it drips down around the bottle of wine and gets on your table, and there's that little red circular stain that everyone hates? These prevent that. It might not look like they do, but what you do is you take them like this, you twist them, put it in the neck of the bottle, voila. Very, very simple. I love them. They're perfectly practical. As I said, they're cheap. You can search on Amazon. You get like a pack of 10 for $3.99 or something crazy cheap like that. I even leave them with friends a lot of the time that don't have them or have never heard of them. I'll bring 2 or 3 over and just say, hey, look, let's use these tonight, and then you get to keep them. They're awesome. So highly recommend those. Go out and get some. Okay, so tip number 4, this is actually going to be a few tips in one. This is about opening a bottle. The first thing you want to do when you're opening a bottle, see the foil cap, you want to just try and see if you can pull it off. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. This one I can't. It's a little too tight around there. So what I have is this foil cutter right here. It's just a circular foil cutter. It's got 4 edges that are pretty sharp around there, and they rotate. So you stick it on the top and twist, simply like that. And voila, there's your top open. The next thing is when you're opening a younger bottle, so this is a 2014, you want to get what's called a waiter's best friend, right? Just a standard corkscrew, but double jointed. Make sure it has the double joints here. That's key because, I'm going to stand up to do this. Sorry, Dusky. So the key here is to enter it at kind of an angle first, right? And start turning at that same angle, and as you go in, turn consistently until it's straight, and then straighten it out, twist it a few more times, and here's where that double jointed feature comes in so handy. Right here, the top, excuse me, you get the first section of cork out, and then you pull up again, and you get that second section of the cork out. Pretty straightforward and very simple. Best sound in the world. Okay, second section of the opening a bottle portion of the tips and tricks here. So this is a tool that's used to open old wine bottles. So it's called an asso. It's got these 2 prongs here. There are other more expensive tools. One's called a Durand you can buy that's a little more fancy, a little fancier. It has a corkscrew in the middle. I don't even know how to use it, to be honest with you. But this will do for pretty much any old bottle of wine. And why do we need this? We need this because your fellow corkscrew over here will break the cork and destroy it into tons of bits and pieces, and it'll get into the wine, and you have to filter out the wine. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So what this does is you just take it like this and you insert this long part here first around the edge. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this in right now, and I don't think I'm really even going to try, but you get this one in first, and then as the second one goes in, you slowly shimmy, I guess, it down, right? And sometimes you'll have to twist a little bit as you go down as well, because the cork will kind of go down a bit. So you want to pull the cork back up. You don't want to plug the cork in there. So you got to be careful that you're not doing that. So you do that all the way until you get to the top here, till the cork's about at the top, and then you just take your two fingers like this, squeeze so you get some pressure on the top of the cork, hold the neck of the bottle, and then slowly turn out. So again, this is only going to be for bottles that are older, I'd say older than 15 years, sometimes 10, but well, any bottle that's older than 15 years, you're going to want to use this on. So, okay, so now we're going to talk about stemware, good and proper stemware. So these are two different glasses, different shapes, as you can see. One is meant for drinking a certain type of wine, and the other is meant for drinking a different type of wine. This is called a Bordeaux stem here, this one here, and it's meant for drinking, obviously, Bordeaux, but Cabernet and a little bit heavier and deeper and darker varietals. And this is a Pinot Noir or a Burgundy stem, and this is meant for drinking Pinot Noir and other lighter, more fruity and floral styles of wine. The reason why you get these types of stems for those types of wines is because of the aromas. It has nothing to do with, the look or the feel or, anything like that. It's all about the aromas, because aromas, as we know, inform your senses and your taste, right? So aromas are going to act differently in this type of a glass from Pinot Noir than they're going to act in this glass, and you're going to get a better sense of the aromas for Pinot Noir from this glass. So make sure you get the proper stemware. It's not always, again, aromas are the most subjective part of the wine, so it's not always necessary, but it doesn't hurt to get the right stemware. And also doesn't hurt to get, higher end stemware. These are, I don't know what kind this is, to be honest with you, but this is a Riedel, and as you can see, the glass is very thin, right? And you're not gonna drip as much wine down the sides of the glass. When you have a thinner glass, it's gonna be just like these foil pourers do. It's gonna cut the wine off of the top, and it's gonna go back into the glass. So it's not gonna leave a mess around the edges, which I also kind of like. And then finally, for stemware, how to properly hold a stem. Notice I haven't been holding the wine like this, right? I've been holding it like this. Well, there's no wine in here, but you know what I mean. Why do I do that? That's because you don't want to warm up the wine when you're drinking it. Wine should be served, red wines, anywhere from 55 to 60, typically, sometimes up to 65 if it's like a Cabernet or a heavier, bolder wine. Lighter wines, even some light red wines can be served at 50, but really the sweet spot is 55 to 60. And ideally, you don't want to warm that glass up to close to body temperature. Otherwise, the aromas are going to go away, and you're just not going to be able to enjoy the wine as much. Same thing with whites. Whites should be served at around 40 to 45 when you take them out at first, and then they can warm up to 45 to 50. But really the sweet spot for whites is about 45 degrees. Don't be afraid if it goes a little warmer. It's fine. I actually prefer my whites now. I used to like them chilled, but you can't taste them that way. So I prefer my whites between 45 and 50 degrees. Okay, so our next tip and trick is we're going to talk about things that kill wine. So what are the two main enemies of wine? Think about where wine is stored, right? In a deep, dark cellar, usually at constant temperature. Light and temperature are two things that kill wine, specifically heat. So you want to keep your wines somewhere where it's dark, on their side, especially because you don't want the cork drying out. You want to keep the wine in contact with the cork, keep it humid. Ideally somewhere that's humid as well. If you don't have a wine fridge or you don't have a cellar, which most of us don't, just store them in your closet on the side. It's going to be the coolest part of your house or your apartment. It's still going to be on its side. It'll probably never be above 70, 75, definitely never above 75, I hope, in your closet. So as long as it doesn't get above 80 consistently, you'll be able to store the wine as long as possible. I know a lot of you aren't long-term storers, but just do not, whatever you do not store your wine next to the stove or oven, please. that can ruin a bottle of wine in a week. So just be careful of that. And for my final tip and trick, I'm going to talk to you about the app Vivino and why I love it so much. And no, I'm not being sponsored by Vivino. I think that's pretty obvious, but so Vivino is a great way to keep track of your wine life. And what I mean by that is it's like a wine diary. I have informed myself about other regional styles that I didn't really know I liked until I started seeing on Vivino that at that restaurant that one time I rated that style really high, and I rated it really high again at this other place. So I started exploring those styles a little bit more. And what it can really help you do is it can help you understand whether you like old world or new world wines. And that's really important because there's a type of style that's associated with old versus new world. So if you're in a wine shop and you tell someone that works there who's helping you pick out a bottle of wine that you prefer the old world style, they're going to know right away what you mean, and they're going to be able to direct you to probably multiple bottles of old world style wine. So that's my last tip and trick. And use the app. Make sure that you log everything and enjoy it and have fun with it too, because it's a good community.